Okay, so this is just a quick update. I just wanted to come back in. If you recall in my last video, I was telling you about we'd gone through the naive, guarded, manual, dynamic, hacked, and capped pools. Okay, now what I did was I moved all of this into a scene, and you can see here it displays differently. It's showing here that this is a scene and not just a node. And if I fire this up, you'll notice that something else happens, and that is that once the game fires up, I also have an instance pool here, okay? So this is loaded up as it's the same object as the capped pool. It's just loaded from a scene. And as you can see, it works exactly the same as the capped scene. But on top of that, the instanced pool works exactly the same. And I'll go in there and take a look at this just to kind of show it off. If we jump in here to the screen control right here, instance scene is just being loaded up as a packed scene. That's an instance of the capped system object in there. And on top of that, I want to point out that when I load the capped system object, I don't load it as a texture button. I load it as the actual capped system object. I did some additional messing around, and what I figured out was when you actually create these scripts, this is the best thing ever because it's the smartest design. It's the way the design makes sense. When you create these scripts, they actually directly extend the node type within the editor. So because they directly extend that node type, you can instantiate them the same way that you would any internally defined node. Okay? So this is actually recognized as the capped system, which is the object that I defined, and all of its public variables, all of its public methods are going to just automatically be available to this other object. And that solves a problem that I've been having some issues with, which is I've been wondering, how do I do more extension in these objects so I can carry certain amounts of data around between this scene and that scene? And that's a hard thing to explain. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go on beyond this, and I'm going to do this even one better. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new node in here, okay? And having created that node, actually, let's, no, you know what? That's fine. Having it just be a node, that's fine. I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to grab the capped scene and I'm going to toss it into that node. And having tossed it into that node, okay, you can see right here it is. And I'll bring it over here. And having brought it over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this up now. And you've seen I just created this automatically. And I'll just fire this up. And the capped scene just works. But on top of that, it even gets better than this, because if I shut this down and I come up here to the node, if I right click on that and I save branch as scene, and I just go, yeah, let's call this bare node.scene, okay? I've now got this loaded up as a scene. And because it's loaded up as a scene, when I fire this up, now that I've just instantiated that as a scene instead of having it right there, it still works exactly the same. Scenes inside of scenes work just fine. And that solves a whole lot of problems. And one of the things that I wanted to point out is this basically means that the Godot developers implemented things exactly the way that they make sense, instead of implementing them the way that it was easy. And this is a development methodology, it's a development practice that I greatly appreciate, but that I'm not used to seeing. I'm not used to other developers doing things the way I think they make sense. But that's a huge reason why I'm using Godot and not using some other engine. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say that, you know, the addressing scenes, there's nothing special. You address them exactly the same way you would otherwise. Even when you've got stuff that's coming in from a subscene, like if we load up capped scene, okay, No, wait, I didn't do that here. I did that in the other test driver. I had another test driver I was using. In fact, let me go back to the project manager and take a look at that. I believe that is in Scene Prune, is where I started that. Yeah, pretty sure this is it. So inside of the particle button scene, if I go in that, then the spray element is actually loaded in from a scene. And because that's loaded in from a scene, we've got it sitting there in a subscene. But if you go into the original particle button scene, and we go in here and say, okay, let me see the particle button script that's actually running there. That particle button script, okay, it's not treating the spray element any differently. It's just getting the node as though it were bare in the tree, which is precisely the way that it ought to work, but I'm so not used to things working that way. This literally did exactly what I thought it should do, which is not normal, because typically things don't do exactly what I think they should do. They do something else that's fucked up, and then I have to go and figure out how that works. But yeah, they actually did things the way they're supposed to be done, and this has all the same stuff in here. Okay, it's just your basic dynamic pool with a cap, and it just works. Same way as the other one did. It's just that this one has the Godot icon instead of the regular textures that I had before, and it's using a different dynamic font. But yeah, I went through and I checked all of that out, and it turns out that it worked really, really well instead of needing a bunch of weird shit done inside of the code. And I'm really gratified by that, and it just underscores that using Godot was a great idea, and I'm gonna keep right on doing it.